Yeah.
Hello, and welcome to this edition on Friday, the 13th of June, 2025, the Magical Human Show, where we've just gone through a full moon in Hawthorn in Sagittarius, so fire, 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 which has stimulated a memo from June to me and me to the wider world, reminding people this is the Hawthorn moon, and this is June. And June, would you like to say something about the Hawthorn moon?
Well, we talked about it last time at the new moon because it's still the same moon, the new
Yes.
full. It goes the whole month, right? But what was going on Instagram was a lot of strawberry moon this and strawberry moon that, and I was kind of like, wait a minute, but come on, guys. And I didn't answer all of them, but one of them I said, you do know that in the UK here, it's called the Hawthorn moon, and I tagged you in so that you could kind of confirm it.
And I did.
Yes.
And I got heckled on my channel because somebody said, oh, no, no, it comes from the Irish, which means strawberry moon. And I was able to go back to this person and say, actually, that came from the Native Americans. I think it's the Appalachians who coined it, the strawberry moon. And then the Irish picked it up as the strawberry moon. So actually, as the Celts were here before the Anglo-Saxons, which is the point the person was making, I was like, I prefer, and I am Celt, to go back to those times of ancient tree worship.
Well, the Druids were here before anybody.
The Druids were the priests of the Celts.
Were they not here? Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Give
The
me
Celts,
a rough estimate of times.
well, everything's got to be pre-Anglo-Saxon. So we're talking like early hundreds, like, and we're talking BC. And the Druids were the Celtic priests, because Druid is oak, doorway, doorway to ether.
Of course it is. And there's a very good homeopathic remedy.
That is
Oak from the Druids. Yeah.
And we
Mm.
will talk about that when we're under the oak moon, which will be
Yes.
soon.
But leave that out for the moment. But yeah, well, see, given that they know now that civilization didn't begin 6,000 years ago, as we've always been told. Rather, there was
Oh my
civilization
God.
here
100%. Yeah.
12,000 years ago. So
And
who
more.
was here then? That's the question. That's what I'd like to know. Who
Well,
was on this island then? And was it indeed an island? It may not have been. It may have been attached to something else.
I know that we had the Appalachians. They were here. The people that worship the female priestess, like witches, would say that, it was the old ways, the old kind of, horned god and the lunar priestesses. But
Wow. Because Appalachians makes me think of Eastern North America. That's called the
exactly. But the thing
Appalachians.
was,
Were
everything.
we connected there? Were we?
Well, that's what I was about to say. Everything was much more joined back together, wasn't it? So it was more one continent. So I think that it's kind of migration was a lot easier,
Yeah.
certainly less costing to your pocket or the environment in those days. It's a lot longer. But I think that there was a lot of migration, like from country to country, or land to land. It wouldn't have been countries because people would have been going where the water was, where the kind of, good soil was, etc.
And they followed the stars, didn't they? I mean, it's like
100%.
the Hawaiians went to New Zealand, and it seems like such a long way for them to go, except that maybe it wasn't in those days.
Well, they
Maybe
were
it
probably
wasn't.
joined together again. So,
Probably really close.
yeah, or, part of the same.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the
Mm-hmm.
world is very different these days. And as I understand it from certain astrologers, they believe that land is reappearing, and therefore we have a chance of Atlanta reappearing. And isn't Hawaii supposed to be the tip of one of these places that,
Well, there's all sorts of possibilities. I think when we look at Hawaii being the tops of mountains, same as the Maldives, which fascinates me because they could both be Lemuria,
well, yeah,
be people having, had the massive floods. They've gone up to the top of the mountains. And and lurked there because they didn't know where else to go.
Well, that's all there was available. Absolutely. Like
Mm,
Shambhala is one of them as well, isn't it? Is that in Tibet? That was one of
maybe,
the
yeah.
places. That's where one of the various Noah and arks landed in Shambhala. But
Mm,
yes, there's a lot of stuff. And you were telling me, well, we were discussing this week about the days of the week, and today is Friday the 13th, as I've already alluded to. So it's a very feminine day because we've got number 13, which is highly feminine number, which is all about domesticity and fertility on Venus Day, which is why for men, like certainly misogynistic men, that's a really scary day because it's like female power. For Venus Day is representative of Venus, the planet, and of kind of love, women, all of that kind of stuff. So interesting. So would you like to say a little bit about the days of the week and your discovery there?
well, I love Friday the 13th. I just got to say that because I was born on a 13th, but it was Saturday, and I was thinking a year later or earlier, I don't know, I would have been Friday. But when it comes round, sometimes my birthday is on a Friday, and I go, yay. And so yeah, I rejoice in Friday the 13th. And I think this whole fear thing has just got to go out the window. Seriously, we're just frightened of our own shadows at this point.
Oh yeah, it's just made
Well,
up.
literally our own shadows. I mean, our evilness, but I see our shadow on the ground. You know, the two meanings of shadows. But yeah, I listened to the new moon chats with my friend Helen and Helen Gibson and Litmus Freeman on Holistic Radio. People might want to listen to various good things on Holistic Radio. It's on a Telegram channel, and they post up a lot of stuff afterwards or during as well. So there's remnants of the discussions, and they record them, so they're also there. So they keep them on there. What Litmus was talking about, somebody posted up a thing about saying, "Have you ever wondered about why we have 7 days in a week?" Or why each day has a particular name. We kind of know that. We could go through that if you like. People probably do know that. It's quite common knowledge now. But then he posted an introduction from Substack about that, which I haven't read. But then he goes on to talk about the Egyptians having 10-day weeks, which were called decades, which, it fits with decades. We got 10 years, decades. And the Romans, weren't you saying the Romans had 8 days?
They had it, yeah, when they came along, they decided to have it as 8 days to keep one day for industry. I mean, the Romans are the ones that introduced Christianity and then it shrunk down to the 7 day week. Um,
Wasn't there supposed to be a day of rest, though? I mean, that's the
yeah,
Aramaic.
the seventh day is a day of rest, which is the sun day. So, are you looking for the
Mm,
article that you were reading?
yes,
Because it was
yes.
really interesting. I read it too. We'll put a link in the group about
Mm.
that because I
Then
thought
people can go,
that's
and it's quite long, I think, and it's just. But he's talking about the seven Jewish archangels, which influenced the obsession with the 7-day week, which I know nothing about, but they do talk about the Abrahamic religions and a misunderstanding of the nature of our solar system. Of course, it's all during the Kali Yuga period, which, we are supposed to be coming to an end of, and that would mean an end to fighting and killing each other just for no good reason. But that seems to be coming to a pinnacle right now, and I'm thinking, well, okay, this is the turning point. We are at this turning point right now. We can choose to go into a higher realm and the proper age of Aquarius, where everybody is compassionate and thoughtful and inventive and all those lovely Aquarian things, and collective rather than tribal and kill the guy who's not in my tribe. That's old. We got to stop doing that.
We do. Now, I'm going to take us back to the 7 day week
Mm,
because I'm looking at the thing you sent. It said it came up in ancient Mesopotamia, where the Babylonians divided the lunar month into four segments of 7 days, each corresponding to the moon phases. And the seven was a symbolic because it was tied to the celestial bodies known at the time, which are in astrology, are the personal planets. So Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Saturn, and Jupiter. So it doesn't go beyond that. And then the rulership was given, and then it passed into the hands of the Hellenistic Greeks, then the Romans, but ancient Egypt had 12 months still, 30 days each, and they had basically, that was it. That was what was interesting. So they split it as you said, but they had 5 extra days a year, and they were the
mm.
birthdays. So the 31sts are the birthdays of major deities and held great mythological significance, which I thought was really interesting. With their decans, they had a 10-day week aligned with the celestial system of 36 star groups, which rose successively on the horizon throughout the year. They seriously knew their stars, didn't they?
Oh, they did.
Yeah. And then as you went on to say, yeah, about the Jewish tradition, the 7 days, God making the days, la la. And then yeah, the Romans having an eighth day known as Nundinum, which was primarily for scheduling trade and administrative affairs, a day of the week for admin. I quite like that.
Keep trying to do that, and it's it's failing abysmally because all the practical stuff needs doing first. Like I planted so many seeds and they're finally coming to fruition, which is lovely. It's lovely. I've got peas that are this tall now.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
really thrilled. I'm doing the copper wire thing with them
I need to get copper
and
wire.
the
Thank you.
little spiders on the top. Yeah, it's really interesting. I watched a thing. Sorry, I've just digressed again, as is my wont. I watched a thing a couple of years ago on YouTube about if you spiral your copper wire one way, it's more yang, and the other way is more yin. And then I thought, I'm just going to go with what it feels right to do. I'm not going to think it. I'm going to feel it. I think this is where we need to get to is just trusting it, not because someone else said so. Do you
No,
know?
it's how
It's
you
not,
want it. How thick is this wire, June?
well, there's various thicknesses. There's a company called wires.co.uk that sells various different thicknesses. You can buy a variety and play with them, which is what I did. And I'm now running out. Some are very, very fine, like sewing thickness kind of wire.
Right, yeah, because I've got them that thin.
Yeah, that's no good. It's too thin for the weather. It would break too easily. So you need quite thick ones on the top. And I can't tell you how many
It
millimeters.
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I get it though. They have to be robust. So they have
Yeah,
to be
yeah.
maybe chopstick, maybe a bit thinner than chopstick, maybe skewer, meat skewer thick,
No, thinner. Yeah, thinner than that.
thinner than meat skewer.
Yeah, because they've got to
Right.
be bent. You've got to be able to bend them.
Yeah.
If they're too rigid, they won't, you got to bend them like the top, like a little antenna, like a hovercraft thing. I don't know, helicopter, but not straight. They got to be curved
Okay.
at
All
the top of
right.
the thing. And then you've got the wire. That's thick wire, but not too thick. And then you've got to fasten them on there. And I've got a marvelous
Fasten what
for
on there?
doing onto the end of your canes, your gardening canes. They go on the top, and then your wire that's a bit thinner comes down in a spiral right down to the soil. So it captures the energy out of the ether, out of the air,
Yeah.
and brings it down into the soil.
Okay, so let me get this straight.
Mm.
Every plant that you're doing this with has to be spiked with a cane.
Well, every pot, I've got a pot. You can do it across if you've got land, which I haven't, you can do wire buried under the surface of the soil with a kind of battery at each end. There's all these it's called electroagriculture
Okay, I'm
or
not
electroculture. And there's loads of people on YouTube doing and demonstrations with videos because I think those are the inspirational people. I've just picked up what I picked up, and I put about three or four in my pots where these plants are growing, and then I string strings for them to climb up as well. Garden
Okay,
flying.
I need to understand what's going on at the top of these things, but it sounds to me like they're because I was just going to go and stick some rods around the garden.
Well, you could do that. Right, that would be your chopstick thickness kind of thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
you
just
could do that.
spiral some rods and stick them around the garden in various places and just kind of see
That's
what
another
happens.
way to do it. Yeah, for sure. For sure. That would be good. But I've got little pots, and so I've put various canes around, near to my plants. They seem to be all right so far. But I'm going away for 2 days, and I'm scared that the snails and slugs are going to come back. I've
They don't have copper
migrated.
though, do they?
No, I know, but they wouldn't have to go across the copper to get to the plant. They could climb up in. Anyway, I think it might put them off. I don't know. I've migrated 3 snails so far this year, which is nothing compared to last year.
You could
Last
put
year.
beer round the bottom of the
Yeah, but that's kind of murder.
what a way to
I,
go.
snails are bird food.
Yeah.
You want to throw, I want to put them somewhere where the birds can get them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do
Back to the days of the
not
week. Sorry.
condone snail death. And when I find snails on my vegetables, in fact, I share my vegetables with snails generally and slugs, but I throw them across the garden to another area where there is no food. They then make their way back, and so the game goes on.
2 miles. 2 miles.
That explains why they keep coming back.
Uh-huh. Or across a road. I go up the road and across another road and put them in the stray that's nearby. A
Somebody else's,
stray, if you don't know what a stray is, it's an ancient grazing ground around
which
York.
they have in York, but possibly not in
Not
Ringmer.
anywhere else.
They do have some in Ringmer. Right, the other thing we were going to talk about this week are the rose windows, because when I visited
Mhm.
you in York, I was quite struck by the beautiful rose window in your cathedral. And I remember admiring it, taking photos of it. I have some good photos of it actually. And then the other day when I was in Arundel at a concert, I saw another rose window and I thought, that looks very similar to the rose window in York. And I've started to notice these rose windows in many places. I seem to have visited an awful lot of churches and cathedrals just out walking this year. Anyway, someone then sent me something which explained what the rose windows were about. So, if I can just quickly say that they are regarded as a tuning system and they each carry a frequency which is called a root base frequency. And that's how they're established. And they will play a tune, a symphony that will work with the other churches and buildings around, which gives a city or a town its own unique song. If it's a village and you're only going to have one church, then it might be just a tune for that particular place to activate the grid because we are all made of energy, we're all made of frequency. And so once you establish what the rose key is for that particular round window, the intention is then to go into the building itself and harmonize to that frequency.
Hmm.
And that then activates the kind of wakes up the energy conductor and turns the city into a power station. Now, that all makes perfect sense, doesn't it, June, if we think about it? And we've got these choirs that are going around activating. I know that there's choirs that do this anyway, but I don't know if they're activating rose windows or just trying to activate the ley lines with Gregorian chanting and other things like that. Are you familiar with what I'm talking about?
Yes, yes. I do know someone who's been talking about opening portals for years, and I don't actually know where he is at the moment. He's gone all over the world doing this, and some of it involves chanting, but opening portals kind of scares me because I think, who are you inviting in? Or what are you letting out? Are you letting out the good stuff? I don't know. But I think these churches are all cathedrals as well, built on power lines, you know,
Yes.
energy pathways, as I'm now calling meridians,
Yeah.
because nobody seems to get what meridians means. So I'm just going, never mind,
Pathways. Yeah.
energy pathway. And the earth has its own, which is why putting copper rods into the earth is not a bad idea. Because Patrick McManaway, long story, his dad started a little healing community up in Berwick on the Scottish border many, many years ago. He was an ex-army major and he took up dowsing. And Patrick took up dowsing, and his brother and their mum, they were all healers. And Patrick now goes around the world doing, energy assessments for locations and homes and he puts copper rods in places. He's been to my house a few times back in the day before he moved to Vermont, and it makes him slightly less
Accessible.
accessible for here, but he's helping people over there, which is great, and elsewhere in the world who've got the money to make him travel.
That's really interesting because I wear a copper crown and I can find with crystals in it that it basically can give me it draws in so much it can actually give me a headache sometimes when I'm running a circle because it's so powerful.
Wow, that's quite interesting. See,
Copper is Venus as well. We're on Friday. Copper ruled by
oh,
Venus, Venus Day. So
yes, yes,
copper is a
yes,
conductor.
yeah. Well, I've got the Center for Implosion Research harmonizers for water, which I mean, water is my latest obsession because they're threatening to put fluoride in it again.
Where? What? Nationally?
Nationwide. There is a group called the Fluoride Free. I really want to get this out there to people. I should give you the link. It's a
Yes,
Telegram
do.
group. Fluoride, fluoride, anyway, fluoride campaign, fluoride free campaign, something, something.
Okay, get it.
Joy Warren is the woman spearheading it. We fought off fluoride being added in York a number of years ago, decades ago. But now the government is coming back and saying they want to start with the Northeast, which doesn't quite include us, but West Yorkshire runs our water, well, ish. We've got involvement with Scottish water too, and I don't understand any of the way these companies works because electricity, water, all our natural resources there's like layers of brokers that sell us our facilities that we're entitled to. So, it's all very tricky, but the fluoride thing is really concerning me. Anyway, for many years, I have had these copper spirals in my home and in my workplace, which you fasten next to the inlet of your water, your main inlet pipe. And it helps the water be less stressed. I mean, we know now from Veda Austin's work and Masaru Emoto
It,
prior
it's li-
that water has a consciousness and it's got a purpose to nurture us and help us be connected to each other through the water. I mean, it's the way homeopathy works. It's the way flower essences work. Sun and water together, the energy of the flowers in the water is phenomenal. And I've started doing them 1986, 87, and I feel like now I'm just beginning to understand the possible potential, never mind the full potential of this kind of working. So
fascinating. So I need to put some by my water inlet as well. So copper rods. But also,
I would go to
I
this.
drink out of a copper bottle. But
Yes, now I want one of those as well, but I'm not sure where to get it apart from they're super expensive or they're just copper plated,
no,
which they have
solid
to be
copper.
pure copper. Yeah.
This is Amazon.
Oh,
Um,
goodness.
but yeah, and they're not expensive. That's like a tenner.
The one I just looked at was 50.
Well, this is a proper copper. And I know it's 100% copper. It's soft, so if you drop it, it does it. But also some places I've been to in the past, like restaurants that are really into kind of, recycling and good practice, they'll have copper pipes for the water because it cleans the water. It's
Hmm.
gentle and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, see, the thing about water is it doesn't like to go in straight lines. And we did used to have copper pipes for all of our water
Yeah,
supply,
we did.
which helped to some extent, but they were still straight. And the harmonics, not harmonics, that's the sound, that's the rose windows. The harmonizers that the Center for Implosion Research sells, they've got specially structured water, as people are familiar with that a bit now, but I don't think everybody quite knows what structured means. What it means is bringing back the vitality to the water so that it's able to flow in a circuitous way rather than trying to be forced in a straight line. Now, Victor Schaumburger, I've known about him for many years, and they talk about him on their website. He created all these wonderful flow forms which cleanse water. You don't even need um, these water purification plants because water will clean itself if you put it in these flow forms. Amazing.
That's really interesting. I've this recently just got one of those shower heads again. I've had them before, which the water comes through the kind of cleansing mineral beads. What a difference. And it saves
I
you
hear you.
40% water, but because I'm tired, I mean, I've got filters on my tap, but I don't have them in my mains and stuff like that. And what a difference to my skin and hair. It's like crazy.
Yes. Suppose you got that off Amazon too.
I did. I love Amazon.
No, no, no.
Um,
Oh dear. Yeah, no, I am I cannot give that man any money. I just can't. I just can't. I just feel you know when you were talking about the rose windows, I got these all these goosebumps and like tingling. Well, when I think about him, I just get so
yeah.
yeah, I
No,
don't want to feel like that. So
no, no, it's fair enough. Cleanse your spirit quickly.
yeah. Woo.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. So,
Great. Great.
and the human resonance, everyone, is 7.83 hertz. We're all
Yes.
familiar with that. So there we have it. So we've done well today. We have covered the rose windows. We have covered copper and the value of copper. We've covered the days of the week. We haven't said much about the moon. I can say Sagittarius kind of in this Hawthorn moon has been about finding your courage, courage of expansion, authenticity. Sagittarius is about truth. This is about heart truth, basically. And what I recommend you do is tune into your heart and ask it some questions and wait for the answers because let your heart speak and don't let your mind rationalize you out of the questions, the answers, which you may very well do anyway, because, certainly some of the things that comes up with the heart, you have to kind of manage,
Yeah.
because you
Is
have to,
that really true? Is that really true?
well,
This
also,
is
yeah,
why
your
we've got
heart.
that capacity. Yeah.
And it's the way your heart's programmed as well. It's like, if your heart is, you've been damaged a lot and things like that, then your heart, your feelings may not be always in your highest interest. So that's why it's important to really know what's right or what's wrong really, really, really deeply, which is why you need the quiet 5 minutes of perspective. But
Mm.
yes, gather up the Hawthorn energy, the Sagittarian energy, and yeah, climb into your truth and allow that to be the lead, that to be the journeying as you go forward, really, because this time, as June has already alluded to, wow, there is so much sabotage going on, so much land grabbing, all kinds of atrocities are going on. And people just, we need to come together, really, and speak our truths and not be afraid of having an opinion which might be seen as, oh, that might hurt someone's feelings. No, speak your truth. Speak your truth.
From your heart, it can't be wrong to say what you feel in a compassionate way. If you said it in an intentionally harsh way, or even unintentionally harsh way, that's not great. But see, there's too many people ready to just jump up and down and shout at each other right now as well. There's a lot of that going on, and
Well,
you really,
it should be calming down, June, because Mercury's in Cancer and so is Jupiter. So I would expect that the focus would be more home, inward, family, and more consideration around communication. So
hmm.
that for now, certainly until
Well, we can hang on to that as a hope.
I
I'm
honestly,
hanging on
yeah,
to it.
but I agree with you. People are, well, fear makes people angsty and angry.
And
So
ready to blame
yeah,
someone,
there's a lot of
someone to blame. And it's like, hold on a minute, we're all in this together. And you start hating someone, you're hating part of yourself, so just give up on that one. But it really, I mean, I somebody pointed out, it's probably Pam Gregory, Saturn is very grounding. And that's the importance of Saturn in this time is that we need to stay grounded.
Saturn's in Aries, so he's grounding us in
Mm.
our leadership and warrior energy,
Yep.
but he's also making people a bit more feisty.
Yeah, it is. There's
So
that.
that's probably the rub.
Yeah.
Right, we best go.
We
So
have things to do.
this, yes,
Yes.
and we'll put all the links of the many things we discussed in the bio, and we will see you again soon. Enjoy.
Take care. Bye bye.